pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Notice requiring to the New Jersey Public Peace Law has been satisfied by forwarding a news release to the Report Press. On December 12, 2013, stating that a regular meeting of the ToCN Township Committee would be held on July 9, 2014, 7:30 p.m. at Town Hall. The notice requirements have been posted on Township Board and copies on file in the office of the Township Clerk.
Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Chancel.
Here.
Committeeman Engel. Here. Committeeman Torgo.
Here.
Committeeman Fitzgerald.
Here, and rest of them, all of you on my head. Except the mayor.
And Mayor Mack now.
Here.
Number one on the agenda this evening is a presentation of the 2013 annual award by Mr. John Antonides, our Chief Financial Officer. John.
Thank you, Mayor. Everybody, good evening. Good evening. Many of you have it on you, but I'll go over the highlights real quick of the audit. On sheet 12, if anybody has it, is the statement of the fund balance and changes for the year. From 2012 to 2013, our fund balance went from $1,568,000 to $1,726,000 for an increase of $157,000. Of this, we utilized $1,172,000 in this year's budget, as you know, which was an increase of $178,000 from the year before. So even though our surplus is going up, we are using that extra money to offset any increases in the budget. Hopefully we're on an upward trend for that. The biggest increase of that was caused by better tax collection, more money's coming. The other highlight, or low light of the audit was the comment section. I only had 2 comments this year. One was, first one, I'll read it. It's during our audit, Township's internal controls noted quotes were not obtained from expenditure in accordance with state statute. Quotes were actually obtained, however, the department that had it couldn't find them when the audit asked for these quotes. So they've been told from now on, when they submit the requisition to me, include the quotes that we have in the finance department so they can be attached to the purchase order. The second item is during audit, Township Municipal Court was noted twice that payment to one state agency were not remitted timely. I believe this problem was caused by having problems. This is the prior court administrators having problems proving out the balance to the tickets taken in on the computer system over at the court. So that's why they did not go up by the 15th of the month. So that hasn't been a problem yet this year. Any questions, comments?
The only comment I had is that I can tell you that I've seen audits in other towns, and I've heard stories about audits in other towns, when you have 2 fairly small housekeeping type recommendations from the audit, which is complete audit. And candidly, not think I'm exaggerating, saying we probably have hundreds, if not 1,000, quotes in a year for various and sundry items. They found one that didn't have the multiple quotes in it, which I think is a good comment. Our finance department should take as a compliment. I certainly did for you. But compared to other towns, and I know that many of us don't get a chance to see other towns, but the reality is that they're doing some really, really good stuff here, and the finance department is watching me. That's
Appreciate it.
Any questions or comments on the audit for this year? All that, no.
Not just me, the staff, everybody here does a fine job.
The fact that it took you 5 minutes to get this synopsis, that's good.
Was it fine?
Not even maybe. Well, to Mike's point, the fact that there's so little to talk about means that the financial house is in order, and there's somebody independent overseeing us and telling us that our house is in order, which is always nice to hear. It's always good for the public here.
Yeah, I did hear the record, I think, this year, something like 34 really comments in the town up north.
Yeah. As long as it's not
Yeah, your coaches, my daughter's soccer team told me, going in 34 really comments.
that'll take a while.
well, pretty much depends on what it is too. I mean, a audit comment can be as little as like a couple of pennies or $1 here, but one audit comment could be thousands of dollars, or so of course it's problematic. And I'd be remiss also if I didn't thank Deputy Mayor Schatzel for his help on the Finance Committee, and he spent more than a share amount of time on our council store as well. So thanks.
No problem, thanks.
Anything else for Mr. Antoni? Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Got it?
Thank you.
Resolution 2014-79 is a resolution confirming the certification of the 2013 audit. Any comments from the committee? None. Can I motion, please?
Second.
Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Schnitzel?
Yes.
Mayor Engel?
Yes.
Mayor Norgo?
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mayor McNabb?
Yes. Number 3 is the signing of the affidavit. I know that's being circulated. That is just our attestation as that we have read the audit.
Let the record show everyone has signed the affidavit except Committeeman Orko, who will do so now. So done. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Number 4 on the agenda for this evening is ordinance 2014-15. This is an ordinance making the revisions of subtitle 1 of Title 39 pursuant to NJSA 39:5A-1 of the revised statutes of New Jersey applicable to the Huddy's Inn Restaurant, Block 48, Lot number 19. This is a first reading by title. This just makes the motor vehicle code applicable to the parking lot. Kind of standard fare these days to have the motor vehicle code applicable to private parking lots. Any comments from the committee on that?
Do we ask the landowner to do that, or we
Typically not.
I thought it was required in the usually subdivision approval.
This one was required. This
Yeah.
one was a condition of planning.
It's usually a condition of thing, but for a couple of reasons, and I'll give the public some good examples. The police can't write a ticket for someone improperly parking in a handicap spot, for example, if there's not a sign posted. It has to be a standing erect sign, and we also have to pass this ordinance. And it's, the name orders, of course, to challenge it. But if somebody were to have an accident in that parking lot, if someone were to back into someone, the police also couldn't write a ticket for careless driving or something else if they so chose, unless we pass this ordinance. So it enables them to enforce the motor vehicle laws that the rest of us have to abide by on the rest of the roads in that parking lot.
But to Committeeman Norwood's point, a municipality does not have to seek consent of the private commercial property in order to enact this ordinance.
That's correct.
So,
we usually,
well, in this particular case, it did make a difference anyway. It was a condition of approval, and they had to abide by it.
And we do this in all circumstances?
Yes.
Similar ordinances.
Anything else?
with that, I would make a motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Schnitzel?
Yes.
Mayor Engel?
Yes.
Mayor Norgo?
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mayor McNabb?
Yes, public hearing on that particular ordinance will be August 13, 2014, which is our next regular meeting. Number 5, Resolution 2014-80. This is a resolution authorizing the award of a bid for Laird Road improvements, Route 537 to Phalanx Road, in the amount of $479,013.13. This was part of last year's bond ordinance for a number of road improvements, this being the third and final phase of the road improvements, and probably the most sought after from many township residents to get this piece of Laird Road done. And I believe the lowest bidder on that was Earl Asphalt, if I remember correctly. Take any comments from the committee on that?
About 100,000 lower than the engineer's estimate.
Yes, that's correct.
When are they planning on starting?
That I don't know.
This will probably, now it has to be again reviewed by New Jersey Department of Transportation. That'll take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, just the way the bureaucracy works. Honest estimate, September.
Mr. Barkley called me last night because the second week of September on is his biggest season, and that's where he brings all his exit from all his orchard people. And,
So we'll talk to Mr. Durfee.
We can try to work it.
that's 6 weeks there. I mean, anytime August, early September is no problem, but
We'll talk to Mr. Durfee, see if it can work.
We'll try to work with Mr. Bartley.
Any other comments from the committee on that?
so moved.
Second. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Schnitzel?
Yes.
Mayor Engel?
Yes.
Mayor Norgo?
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mayor McNabb?
Yes. Number 6 is Resolution 2014-81, a resolution authorizing the execution of a settlement agreement, mutual release between the Township of Coltsneck and Western Monmouth Habitat for Humanity, a Title 15 not-for-profit corporation of the state of New Jersey. I'll make some comments on this. It's because it's going to tie in with numbers 7 and 8 on the agenda for this evening. Just by way of history, a couple of years back, the Township Committee entered into a contract with Habitat for Humanity. And the reason was because we were statutorily obligated to commit a certain portion of our COA funds to a specific affordable housing obligation. We had approached Habitat for Humanity, they indicated some interest. We dedicated some portion of our affordable housing funds to Habitat with the expectation that they were going to build at least one, perhaps 2 units in the township of Cold Snack. They didn't materialize, Sandy got in the way. They wound up focusing their efforts in other places where they were able to acquire property for less money, such as Freehold Borough was one of them. And I think down the Bay Shore they did a couple as well. And so it never came to fruition. In the interim, we started sending out feelers to other organizations and entities that did not-for-profit work. And we ultimately met with a company called, and I'm not saying we, I'm talking about the COA subcommittee, met with an organization called Everest. And Everest, along with other similar type groups, they acquire and make available housing for developmentally disabled people. And in the case of Everest, it's typically visually impaired folks, hearing impaired folks, and they buy homes for them, state subsidized, and we met with them a few times. Great group of people. They really have their act together. They're liquid. They're able to lay out money to do things. And what we're going to do today is terminate our contract with Habitat. And in the next resolution, we're going to enter into a contract with Everest, or at least that's what we propose. And then Everest is very much interested in buying one existing home in Cold Snack and perhaps 2 to put 4 developmentally disabled folks in each of those units. And that would, in addition to helping out hopefully some folks in our town, in our area, to facilitate their needs for developmentally disabled adults, but also help us out with whatever affordable housing obligation we're ultimately called upon to satisfy by the state. Right now it's minimal. Assuming that's our obligation stayed in place, this would satisfy it. So it's really a win-win. It's a great service that we're providing, and it helps us on the back end also with the affordable housing obligation. So I'll take any comments from the committee on 2014-81, which is the resolution terminating the agreement with Habitat.
To add briefly, Mayor, your comment, that's with their consent. It's a settlement agreement that's not contentious, it's not litigious. It's by consent because they realized that they were not able to really do what they thought they might be able to do with Cold Snack, and they're willingly backing out, freeing up that money. We had to tie this up to free up the money to do the deal with Everest.
Yeah, this was all applicable. We approached them before we even contemplated going outside to see whether they would be amenable to terminating. Any other comments from the committee on that one? Okay, get a motion on 2014-81. So moved. Second. Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Jackson.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nagel.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wargo.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Mayor McNamara.
Yes. 2014-82 is a resolution authorizing the execution of a development agreement between the Township of Cold Snack and Everest Community Services, a Title 15 not-for-profit corporation of the state of New Jersey, to assist the township in meeting its obligation to provide affordable housing in accordance with the Fair Housing Act, and authorizing the expenditure of funds from the Township's Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And this is the companion to the last ordinance. This allows the township to enter into a contract with Everest. Any comments from the committee on this one? So moved. Second, please. Second. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Jackson.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nagel.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wargo.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Mayor McNamara.
Yes. And the third part of this is Resolution 2014-83. Is a resolution of request for review and approval of Affordable Housing Trust Fund spending plan as amended. Again, every time that we decide how to commit affordable housing funds, we have to go to the state and seek their approval to do so, and this authorizes us to go ahead and do that. Any?
One comment, Mayor. This is progressive, and I think it's very, very good. We started this a couple of years ago when the governor's office made it clear that if you didn't use your COA dedicated funds, they would basically take it to help balance the budget. I mean, that was their subterfuge, which is now fairly clear. We made the effort with Habitat for Humanity, and now with Everest, but we're looking prospectively so we don't fall in a situation where we end up having to effectively sheet the money to the state because we have not used the money for fulfilling a COLA obligation, which obviously in this case is something that's easy to do, and it's may very well say it serves the needs of some of our own residents. So it's we'd rather spend the money with someone that's going to do something productive as opposed to see it go to the general state fisc.
Yeah, this will be a very nice thing for our town, ultimately. We'll be able to do some really nice things for some people that really need to have catch a little bit of a break. So it'll be a good thing. Without any imposition on the town at all. So it'll be great. Can I get
I'll make one other comment, Mayor, because we forgot to talk about the deal with Everest is they're a non-profit. So they would, if they were to find a house and be able to develop something, they would not be obligated to pay property taxes. The mayor aptly pointed out that potential problem and proactively talked to Everest. They've agreed to, as part of the contract, which refers to as a pilot, payment in lieu of taxes, LLT, of $2,500 a year. And if you think about it, if it's a home in Colts Neck that say pays $10,000 a year in taxes, we get about 1,100 of that, 10,000. So a $2,500 pilot actually is a much more attractive. I mean, it doesn't make a big difference in our budget, but that it was proactive and it was a good catch.
Yeah, it's not going to result in a windfall to us, but at the same time, there's no loss to us as well. And obviously, there's no imposition on the school system, so there's no loss from that perspective as well. Comments? Any others?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Chancellor.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Engel.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Orgo.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Mayor McNamee.
Yes. Number 9 this evening is the consent agenda. Resolution 2014-84 is a resolution authorizing the release of special performance guarantee block 52, lot 4, 14 Water Street. Number 11 is resolution 2014-85, a resolution approving insertion of special item of revenue Clean Communities Grant. 2014-86, a resolution to authorize recreation program refunds. And 2014-86A, a resolution authorizing fireworks display on July 10, 2014, with a rain date of July 11, 2014 at the Colts Neck Fair. Any comments from the committee on the consent agenda? Can I get a motion, please? Second. Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Chancellor.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Engel.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Orgo.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Mayor McNamee.
Number 14 this evening is a discussion item. This is the Montrose Road School house improvements, and I'll turn it over to the Deputy Mayor.
Great, thanks, Mayor. We've discussed a while ago, there was a motor vehicle crash on the corner of Montrose and Cedar Drive that damaged the fence that is around the Montrose Road Schoolhouse. We've looked at it since then. We have an insurance claim that will replace a certain portion of the fence, but because of the decay of the existing fence, we're going to replace, or we're requesting to replace the whole fence around there. We've gotten, the administrator's got some quotes. Capital Fence is coming in with the lowest quote. We also, since we are doing some work there, as we looked at some other maintenance items that need to be done at the schoolhouse, mostly decaying wood, those types of things. We also have a quote for that. The request of the Township Committee this evening is to use up to $15,000 to complete both of those projects through the open space fund.
Comments, gentlemen?
Just one question. I saw the quote for the repairs, and ironically, I happened to drive by there a couple of days ago, and I saw that the window sill on the northeastmost window on Cedar Drive is visibly rotting
Yes.
out. I see that that's part of the repairs that you talked about. And just in keeping with the fact that we just went over the audit tonight, we did get another quote, or we're not required to get another quote?
We got two quotes for the fence. The carpentry quote is under the threshold for quote requirements. So we only got one, which we thought was a good quote.
No, I agree with that. I thought the number was very good for what was being asked, and I don't have a problem with necessarily. We want to get on the soapbox at some point. I always felt that the Montrose School was never really properly exposed because there's no parking there, and everybody's afraid to stop. So, although it's on the horizon, I always wondered, although I realize it seems silly to move the Montrose School away from Montrose School, if we were here on
Oh, it was moved once before, right? So we're not losing really history there.
so my thinking was if we were to put it here in this municipal complex structure, it would have great exposure. I suspect we probably wouldn't have to spend more than based upon my experience, we probably spend $10,000 or $12,000 to move the Montrose School down here. It would have more exposure, have parking, and maybe make that a park. Maybe if they, I don't know, if historic or somebody else can look at that on the horizon, but that would be my personal edge.
We've talked about that a few times, and I don't think anyone at this table, I'm hearing a lot of yeses in the audience disagree with that, so maybe we can take that back to historic preservation. But Mayor, if you could just, I think, for the benefit of the public as well, explain where the money's coming from and why it's coming from.
Sure. The open space ordinance for the state and our adopted ordinance says that we can use it for open space, historic preservation. What's the next one? Farmland. Right. So it's been done in the past, a number of years ago, and we're requesting it to be redone again for this project.
So I have one issue with the fence concept, and, well, first, if we're gonna move the school, I wouldn't do any of this stuff. If we're really seriously considering that, spending this money would be pointless.
Sure.
But as far as the fence itself is concerned, I think there were really 3 ways you could go. The existing wooden fence could be replaced. I think there was a proposal to replace it with a PVC or plastic fence. And third, to take down the fence in its entirety and leave that area to parking, because right now, because of the fence, there's almost no parking in it. So you have to park on side streets or on Montrose itself. For me, having a plastic fence around a wooden historical building just didn't make much sense to me. I know it just didn't.
I can actually address all those
No,
issues for you.
go ahead.
Because of your comments and because of Committeeman Orga's comments, I brought that back to the Historic Preservation Committee. They are more than willing to do the wooden fence. That's really what we wanted. We went back and forth about between maintenance and the look. So we're back to the wooden fence, which ultimately we're really happy about. Committeeman Orga also suggested that with his experience that the PVC fence would not be as strong as the wooden fence. So if there was any plowing issues or any snow pushed up against, he felt that the PVC pipe would not fare as well. I did discuss not having a fence at all. Nobody really moved on that. They still want the fence. They feel it really marks out. But to the parking issue that you both spoke about, actually all 3 of you now spoke about, is that not only the gate that leads into the walkway into the front, but on the side there's going to be a double gate that could be opened up that would easily allow a car length to pull in there, so we could use that. But what I will do is I would still like to move ahead with the approval, but I will move back and talk about moving the schoolhouse and see what traction we get there.
Yeah,
That's just that's my own.
No, I think we'll talk back and forth, and I think that's great.
Well, I also want to add, from a parking perspective, I'm a little bit concerned, because I think most of us know that that's a low area, and it tends to flood, and especially with heavy rain, and it's not really the best place to park. And the access to that particular spot, both leaving and coming,
Not safe.
not very safe. There's really no line of sight there on that corner. People that are used to driving that area aren't used to cars pulling in and out. So when we've had events there's a lot of cones, there's a lot of people monitoring traffic. I really think we should consider moving the house. That's what we want.
I'm comfortable as far as the discussion approved for the deputy mayor to what these expenditures that we talked about, because something clearly has to be done. And we have some money from insurance, but if the historic preservation committee wants to seriously explore a move, then you can hold that back and put that in your pocket for the time being and actually, the insurance is the biggest part. When you move a house or something like that, the biggest part of it is the insurance that the moving company has to get from moving.
So I can't go in there about jacking your houses up, but other than that.
Right.
You'll find some time like how confident.
Moving the building is the only way to really go, as far as I'm concerned. That's number 1. Number 2, I don't think taking the money out of farmland preservation and open space, I think, is for maintenance. It is for purchasing and everything else. It is not to buying fences or anything else for that piece of property. In my opinion, I say no. I suggest to put landscaping around it for parking. You want to put a big rock on the corner, we'll put a big rock so they can hit it. But to put the fence back up the way it was, you're just asking for it. It's too close to the road and it doesn't serve any purpose. I mean,
I think it serves the purpose, landscape truck's not taking a corner off every time they come around.
we'll put a big rock there. I get you one.
Well, let's see if we have to move, maybe we don't need a lot.
Right.
Maybe some of these issues.
I mean, don't they have money in historical?
Not that type.
They don't have any money in historical.
Not that, not $15,000.
But if they don't put the plastic fence up, they don't need it. If you take the $1,800 that you got in the insurance, won't that fix the fence?
Well, the other fence is falling apart.
If we, why don't you back to historic preservation, see what they like of the idea first. We'll get some of the rich farmers on the committee to donate some money.
And in the meantime, to Commissioner Rogo's point, I would like to get a legal interpretation of the space. And that way, it would just put that argument to rest, the board would support it. I think either way, I wouldn't want to base a decision on something that's false.
Let me get a legal opinion, I can tell you, I can see the law in my mind. The state law and your referendum
almost quality.
clearly said open space, farmland, and historic preservation.
But he's saying acquisition, I think it says maintenance also.
It says maintenance because we had the argument
No, I know
about
it's-
it not covering open space because we wanted to make sure it didn't cover seed and clay for the infields of baseball.
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly.
That was the exact discussion.
Yeah.
We can check it out, but you can.
Yeah, I'm
glad
glad
to do
we
that.
researched
What is the maintenance, if I'm not mistaken?
Maintenance was put in historic preservation as a
Oh,
distinction
well,
between.
I'm almost positive.
And if you guys
The
want to.
only reason why, because next year we have a balloon payment in farmland.
Not next year. 2017 goes from roughly, I have the number if you like. An increase of 40,000 in 2017. Next year's a minor, I checked.
Just as an aside, if you want to get really progressive when you talk to historic preservation, if you're doing that, then there's probably only another $3 or $4 grand to put a basement in, right? Underneath the building?
I wouldn't do it.
I don't know.
I wouldn't do it.
For
We have a similar problem.
For store, no, put it, if it was across the street with library, I might be able to get a 8-foot or 10-foot basement that you could use for storage for the storage problem we have here in the building.
Well, I was going to say, there you go.
We could have an engineer look at it.
I'll be more than happy to bring this back, but remember, we just went from really maintaining our only historic preserved structure in the township for $15,000 to a much larger number.
I agree.
But I will, by more than you will, we'll look into it and we'll get some quotes about moving and all that. But I would like to, if the decision is not to move it in 2014, is to let's repair what we have as our only historic structure in Old Town.
I have no problem.
We lost so many things along the way that I would love to see the state, and thank goodness we have at least one thing.
And with that, I would move to approve the monies to spend, as we've discussed, changing back to the wooden fence instead of the PVC, subject to the postponing by the Historic Preservation Committee if they decide they want to move it over.
Well, wasn't the wood, for fixing the windowsills, wasn't that way below the bid number? Can't we just fix that without taking it out of that?
There's a motion on the table now, right?
Yeah, there's a motion on the table. Let's, and second on the motion?
Second.
All right, now will be comments on that motion.
What's the motion to take the money out of farmland?
Correct.
For the fence and the
It's not
repair.
just farmland.
Just farmland, it's farmland or open
Farmland,
space
open
preservation.
space, and historic preservation.
But historic preservation has raised money. They get money every year too, right?
That's not a comment. You can make a comment.
The motion was, in place, conditioned on discussion with historic preservation. Correct me if I have it wrong, but on moving the building. The motion would be to replace the fence with wood and do the required carpentry to, you didn't say this, but you might add up to $15,000.
But they don't need 15, they're not gonna put glass in.
It's going to be
It'll be
lower
fine.
than that, but there's always, that's the contingency, things don't need to go in a straight line. If everything worked properly, we're talking 11, 12,000, so a $15,000 fee is not unreasonable.
Yeah, but wait a minute. If if you're not putting a plastic fence up, and the insurance company paid for the 1,800 to put the wood fence back up, can it get put back up for the 1,800?
To repair, they're asking for replacement.
They're replacing the entire 410 feet of perimeter. The insurance paid for the 110 feet of wooden fence that was taken off our Ruckus Drive.
And just so you know, Tom, ordinance number 48-3 permits the use of following open space funds for maintenance purposes.
He Googled.
At any rate,
It's like saying that.
we're back to it.
Yeah, there's a motion pending on the floor. Okay, let's,
Just so we're all
any other
clear.
comments on this motion? Gotta get a roll call vote on the motion, that's all.
We moved in seconds.
It was.
It's moving a second, but I do have one question. Can we don't have to notice, there's nothing else that's required of this to move it and vote on it tonight without any further notice?
Deputy Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Superman Engel?
Yes.
Superman Orgo?
No.
Superman Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mayor McNamee?
Yes.
Thank you.
Number 15 tonight is a discussion item, possible ordinance introduction. This is the Wildlife Subcommittee, amended Chapter 120 of the Township Code, firearms, and since this is one of my particular areas of interest, I'll talk a little bit about this. Discussions have been ongoing, I think since I've been on the committee, this is my 4th year, about ways to deal with the deer problem in town, which I believe is fairly universally acknowledged to be a problem on a number of different levels, which we need not get into again tonight because we've done it many times already. Last year we had a proposal to allow hunting in all parts of the town with limited exception. Property, greenways being accepted, and there was some maybe more than some resistance from members of the public. And so we went back and revisited it. And since the beginning of the year, I've been involved at every meeting with the Wildlife Subcommittee, which was reformed in response to that. No. And the idea of this subcommittee was to explore, go back to the drawing board, if you will, and explore ways, different means and mechanisms to help control the deer population. And disappointingly, at least from my perspective, not as many people as I would have expected opted to participate in these meetings, which were well advertised and held regularly, and even more recently, when I made behests over the last couple of months through the media that attend all of our meetings, where people have come out, we had very little turnout, very, very, very little turnout, especially from those folks that were against expanding hunting in town. And I found that somewhat disappointing because this subcommittee was meant to be a vehicle by which people could express their opinions, share ideas, and come to hopefully a constructive resolution toward this problem, which is a fairly profound problem in town. Ultimately, the committee, with input from some members of the public, engaged in a number of discussions, looked at a number of different options again for dealing with the deer problem. And ultimately, it was resolved that the only viable means or mechanism currently in the township of Cold Neck, based on a number of factors, including efficacy and cost, is hunting. Some other ideas that floated around, including some of these pharmacological agents that have been bandied about, but by and large, they are ineffective in an uncontrolled population, and arguably in a controlled population based on studies that we read, and they're very, very, very expensive, cost prohibitively expensive for a township like Cold Neck and probably most other municipalities as well. The only places that I've seen them actually tried were in places where they were privately funded. But again, the problem with the pharmacological agents is Cold Neck doesn't have borders. We don't have a fence around the perimeter of the town. Deer flow freely from one municipality to another. So what you're doing is sterilizing animals, but introducing animals from other municipalities at the same time. And so it's not very effective. We looked at other means, such as what Princeton Borough used, such as culling, which I guess does remain an option, although albeit a very expensive option. So ultimately, after these meetings, it still came down to the least expensive, really, no expense option, which at least appears to be the most effective, short of culling, which is hunting by licensed hunters. And so the proposal originally from the Wildlife Committee was to allow hunting on parcels of 3 acres or more. I pushed back on that, and I insisted that the parcels be at 5 acres. And the number is somewhat arbitrary, I will admit that. It's an arbitrary number insofar as it's impossible, sitting here today, to be able to tell the public the degree of effect that increasing the hunting on those size parcels of the property will result in. I can't say that. My concern was more of, again, from the perspective of those folks that were concerned about safety. I wanted to limit the properties, at least at this juncture, to give some level of reassurance to the members of the public that were concerned about safety, that there wasn't going to be hunting on the smaller parcels of property. So I pushed a 5-acre minimum, and that's ultimately what our amended discharge ordinance that's here tonight reflects. It would allow hunting of white-tailed deer only on parcels of 5 acres or larger in the Township of Colts Neck with owner's consent. Still leaves out municipal property, greenways. This is only on private property with owner's consent. And what the hope is that to get an ordinance in place, or get this amendment to the ordinance in place by hunting season, which I begins in September.
Second Saturday.
And to be in a position by next spring to evaluate what effect this amendment has had on the deer population. And we do that, and we're able to do that because hunters are required to report their kills to the county, so we get a number from the county, and we're looking to compare the increased hunting result with the before result, and see if we get an appreciable increase. And in that way, we can test our hypothesis in any case that allowing additional hunting will have a positive impact on the town as far as increasing the deer population without resulting in any increased safety issues, whether they be perceived or actual. And so that's the goal of what we're doing here tonight, or proposing that we do here tonight. And with that, I'll take any comments from any members of the committee. Certainly, Committee Norville is involved as chairman of the Wildlife Subcommittee.
Well, you did cover most of it. The biggest concern we have is we're just going to open it up to just more farmland. It's not going to be impacting neighborhoods that have it, like in Clover Hill, so it's not going to impact any of those people up there whatsoever, unless they got a 5-acre farm in the middle of Maple Drive or whatever. It's not going to happen. We're hoping it's going to work. We don't know if it's going to work, but we got to try something. And I mean, as you can see, the little ones running around here in the last month have popped up on the.
Is that the second litter this year?
Well, they had the first litter. It's not that. The first ones are usually born May 15th, somewhere in there, and then the next heat, which is in November, then the babies are born in June. There'll be one more next week or the week after, but that's not a big one. Usually those are the ones that die during the winter. Because they can't make it because they don't get big enough. Their spots don't leave too late, this and that. But there's some herd out there now. They say at the rate we're going, the herd will double every 4.25 years. And, it's an economic thing.
We cannot accommodate that type of wildlife.
There's going to be more deer than our people.
Maybe. So, and the other thing I said at the Wildlife Subcommittee meeting is the one that was the most well attended. Doing nothing for me is not an option. We have to do something. In absence of a comprehensive state wildlife control mechanism for the deer, which we do not have, unfortunately, I think it is incumbent upon municipalities to do something. And right now, this is the best something that I can come up with, that the Wildlife Subcommittee can come up with. And we're going to give it a shot, hopefully, assuming that the committee approves the amendment to this ordinance.
One other thing, Committeeman Engel sent us the state has even put, if you go to our website, the state is asking everybody to fill out a survey on what they think about the deer situation, no matter where you live, drive, whatever. They want to know if people getting sick, how many car accidents and everything else like that. And that's on the township website. So fill it out, because that will go back to Fish and Wildlife, New Jersey.
Okay.
Two comments. One of the comment has to do with kind of question as well. So the first comment is, I think the reality of the situation, what I found most frustrating when we first started looking at this in 2012 and working with our law enforcement officers, is that the way the existing ordinance was written, we had no teeth, similar to what we had dealt with the brush collection. And I hate to use the word lawless, but we have a tremendous amount, not maybe tremendous, it's strong, but we have illegal hunting going on in the town. So there is hunting, the hunters are here, and they're not being properly monitored. So to echo to follow up kind of on Tommy's comment, in that we've had several residents come before us saying the problem is they get rodents or rats or any type of animal on their property. The only animal, even if they have a person on their property, if they want removed, they can remove them. The only animal they can't remove is the deer. So I think for those folks looking to remove the deer that have properties of 5 acres or more, where you mentioned the Clover Hill section, if you drive through the Clover Hill section now, you'll find those properties that are 5 acres or more, because they lend to allowing for large quantities of deer to congregate, and they're having some problems as well. And yes, they are. Some of them are farmers, small farmers, but they're still having some issues. So I think that will be helpful. My question is, when we started to work with the state back in 2012, working with our police officers and our police department trying to get a better hold on the situation, I learned that the state was going in partnership with us and adopting state rules and regulations, have officers from Fish and Game available to us. Now that they know that hunting is going to be happening in town, they would be sending those officers in, they would be supporting our officers and monitoring. If one of our officers came across an incident, they would get involved. They would also provide for us their services as it relates to studying biologically what's happening with the deer count, flying by, doing flybys and using infrared technology to actually count the deer. Since to your point, how do we really know? We're not even quite sure how many we have. But this could actually start the process of really scientifically getting a better understanding. That, to me, both the legality of the situation and really being able to control the hunting that's currently happening in town, and really taking a real knowledgeable approach at tracking the deer. Because I know it's been brought up several times. How do we know if it's going to be effective?
I totally agree. I think the only way to really know is
Takes time.
well, you need to know, we know the number, we know the before number, before kills. We'll know the after.
We'll know the after.
Unfortunately, that is the only real way to know. These other mechanisms, which again, most of which are very cost prohibitive, are questionable.
Well, no, my point is though, with working with the state, the wildlife experts, and they would, be now available to us, like I mentioned with infrared flybys, and be able to help us better understand the population, where the populations are.
Have you ever heard anybody talk about an infrared flyover for deer?
And every town will know.
Yeah, that was,
Yeah.
yeah.
No pause.
It was brought up at the when we had the town meeting. Anyway, so I was just wondering if in your conversation that would be something, now that we're adopting this ordinance, or we're discussing the adoption of this ordinance, is that something that the state is still willing to do and work
We'll
with us?
certainly make the state aware that we are moving in this direction and invite them. Fishing game, I see them in town all the time. So they're here anyhow. They do their jobs regardless of whether there's hunting on 100-acre parcels or 2-acre parcels in accordance with state statute. They're going to do their job anyhow. They can't be everywhere all the time, but they are definitely around to see them.
Shannon, he lives in Middleton, he has to go this way every day.
Yeah, I think they're here anyhow. So, but once, assuming that we do expand the ability to hunt white-tailed deer, we'll make sure that the state's aware that there's expanded hunting in the town. I'm sure they'll be aware anyway,
Oh, no.
but we'll make contact with
Yeah,
them.
it's a huge positive for moving this direction.
Jim?
How many parcels would this open up? Would it add to 10, 100, somewhere between?
I would say about 30, 35.
I was gonna say 30 also, Jim.
And just, I know it's hard to, how many deer, additional deer do you think could be hunted with those 30 or 35 parcels during hunting season?
Well, if they each got 10, that's 350. Well, Cold Snake last year reported was 897. It was off last year because of so much snow, many hunters couldn't get out all the time.
So one caveat too, though, the 30 or 35 that are now available may very well have been available before because they're farms.
Yeah, you just couldn't kill it.
Well, we're hoping for conservatively a 20% increase. I mean, but it's to a large extent.
That's a big increase, but I mean, we're hoping.
We're hoping
some
for
kind
a
of-
20% increase. I think that's what we'd like. But again, as Committeeman Organ said, a lot of it's weather dependent, condition dependent, and the deer are not stupid. They'll move.
You mean, you get shot at 5 o'clock one night, you're not gonna come back at 5, you're coming back at 6 the next night. The next night it's 7.
So, I mean, that's the goal, but the idea will be, come next year, year mayor, to be able to go back in and look at the numbers and say, did what we do work? And if it didn't work, then we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board and come up with another idea. And if it did work, do we want to do something more to expand it and see what we can do to make it work even better, to a point where hopefully we can get back to a biological equilibrium where those of us that have been in this area for a long time remember when there seemed to be an equal balance of deer to other animals, and around there isn't that now.
The ground cover in the woods, the ground on it, they've eaten now 8 feet up through the woods. It's just unbelievable. There's no place for rabbits, there's no place for chipmunks, there's no place for quail, nothing.
Well, and it's, Tommy, if you can expand on it. Because, I had this conversation actually with, and I'll get into it in my report with Jason Pinell last night, but you mentioned underbrush and rabbits. I mean, when we looked at this and Committeeman Fitzgerald had taken what I started as the deer subcommittee and turned it into the wildlife committee to look at the wildlife as a whole. This isn't about trying to kill animals, the subcommittee, right? This is trying to look at what's happening with the
Well, that's what
animal population. So if you could just spend a few minutes and
The
explain.
ground line, as you see it, is how high the deer can reach up and bite the leaves and clear it all. The county has done a good job at it, and they've opened some of their parks up, and they're getting the undergrowth to grow back up. Without undergrowth, you've got no place for small animals, and they just keep eating up and up and up. It's just, you just drive by the road, you can see through anything, you'll know that it's loaded with deer, because they eat multiflora rose, they eat briars, they'll eat anything.
And where I was going with Jason Pinell is that you're clearing out the underbrush, so therefore that's not soaking up the water. The root systems of the trees, because they have so much water now being shorter, the trees are toppling lines.
So in any case, again, the idea behind this is, so the language of the amended ordinance is strictly to help get the white-tailed deer under control. That's the intent. Our hope is that this ordinance gets passed and that we're in a position next spring or certainly by next summer to evaluate whether this has had the intended effect without any deleterious consequence and to be in a position to evaluate whether there's something else that we can do.
The only thing I would suggest, if we do get this form, we do get it passed, that the wildlife committee keeps working, because we've got other things.
And there's other things, absolutely. I would absolutely keep the wildlife committee in place. There's other things.
They're working on the pond, put more fish in.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I wouldn't spend it. So, okay, go ahead.
A couple things. As some of you know, my undergraduate degree is in economics, and we did study statistics a fair amount. And ideally, I would like to see the number of kills in this town go down and progress over time is going down. Because that's not the real measure. The real measure is how many deer events are there. If that number goes down, and as Committeeman Orville points out, even dumb deer don't get shot at, so they go somewhere they don't get shot at. So if the goal here is to reduce the population by expanding the available land for hunting, and if we take those other measures, the incidence of residents who complain about, it's a fairly static number. A certain number of residents complain every year about the deer, about losing their foliage. A certain number of residents report their car accident with the deer, others don't. That's not going to change. If those numbers go down, the number of kills go down, it means we have less deer, obviously we're moving in the right direction. So there's other statistics around that are available to take that measure. The other thing that I think is true is that it's nice to call it culling. I guess when you're in Princeton, you can call it culling. It's hunting. Culling is they shoot them. and they kill them. And when they hunt them here, that's what they're doing also, they're shooting and killing them. It's just
But
a
using
technique called culling, called
Well, the
something.
big difference for me is you using the deer after you kill them versus.
Well, right now, if you have a depredation permit, you can only use so many, most of them just get buried.
But the culling was 1,100 a deer, it cost
Yeah.
expensive. So, if you want to get rid of 800 deer, $1,100 a pop, I can only imagine what that's going to do. I don't think anybody's here prepared to lay off public works people or police officers to cull deer. The second thing is, and it's true, Committeeman Engel, when he was the mayor, started this charge, and it got shot down by the people who were most vocal about it, who in my opinion, some of which misunderstood the effort at the time. I purposely put the most vocal of the people who came to the meeting on the committee. And Committeeman Orville reports that some of those folks have stopped coming to the meetings for various and sundry reasons, but there's a certain element of, at least what I've heard back from some of the folks that I put on that board, was that the ordinance is improved, it's better, it's protected the people that want to be protected, it's protected the areas that are there, and it moves closer to complying with the state law, therefore not exposing us to a potential problem, and addresses the ultimate issue. So for all of those things, I think that there are, you're moving in the right direction, but we ought to take a strong look, and maybe let Wildlife Committee can figure out what other measures there are out there other than just kills.
And that will be an ongoing continual process as the technology improves and as different pharmacological agents become available and become more cost effective, they may become viable options as well. And I for one, monitor it closely. There's a lot of literature on the subject, a lot of studies, a lot of periodical articles on the subject, because it's not just a problem here, it's a problem everywhere. So a lot of folks write on it. So I do follow it. And, hopefully something comes along someday that really gives us a good answer to this problem. I don't think there's a good answer now. There is an answer that is available to us, and that's what I'm asking that we approve here tonight. And I would ask if the comments from the committee are done, the committee consider moving this for introduction tonight.
One last question.
Sure.
Sorry. Out of the many meetings that we've had that you've been involved in, especially of recent, has there been any comments from the public at those meetings as to why they would be opposed to this? So if we do move forward with this, are we going to find them coming to the meeting? And if so, what substantively are they not happy with as it relates to the
So again, very few people came to the one meeting. And just so the public is aware, the goal was to talk about this, perhaps introduce this last month. We didn't do that because at one of the wildlife meetings, there was a concern that there was lack of notification to the public. So what we did is, Committeeman Over really, and Mr. Bowden made sure that all of our local periodicals and the press and our website reflected that next meeting. It was in June sometime, I don't recollect exactly when. It was well publicized, and if 5 people came, that was it. I don't know, something around.
And that was pro.
Yeah, so it was, it was very sparsely attended. And unfortunately, so at the one meeting, which was the meeting before that would have been in May, that people did attend, the general concerns still are safety. There are some people that are afraid of guns. They're afraid of the discharge of firearms. And we understand that. And so this ordinance was intended to kind of be a middle of the road thing, to try to improve upon what we have, but at the same time, not give those people any increase for concern, or minimal increase for concern. You're never going to get it perfect. I don't think there's ever any possible way to get this perfect. What we strived for was to get the best possible compromise that will hopefully achieve the goal that we're looking for without causing public concern or increased public concern. And that was the goal. But yeah, are you going to hear people? I am sure you're going to hear people. Look, if you put up a bar in a residential neighborhood and you had drug drivers leaving at 2 o'clock in the morning every night, would you hear concerns from people? Probably so, and for good reason. To me, that's more dangerous than this, but people have the right to express concern, and I'm okay with that. But I think if you look at what we're going to do here today, The concern is a minimal concern. It's a concern that, that will, I think, be largely unfounded because we have limited the size of the other properties.
Actually, Mayor, I think you misunderstood my question.
I don't think so.
That's okay. The concern that I was asking about are the concerns of those folks that live on less than 5 acres and why they wouldn't have the right to be able to.
All the concerns I heard, hopefully to specifically address your question, I didn't hear anybody complain about the ordinance. The concerns that were voiced were more in the nature of a generic feeling that they didn't want hunting anywhere in this world, not
Their biggest
just
concern
in
was people hunting green acres, which
Yeah.
we don't have green acres, we have green ways. And like I told them,
Well, they don't be walking through the streams and through their backyards since we have so much that I understand.
and the thing of it is, if you see somebody, call the police, because
It's
that's
illegal.
it's the easiest way to describe
That was the biggest question asked, but no, I have not heard anything from folks with under 5 acres.
If anybody does have it, if you have 5 acres, you don't want anybody to hunt, you say, well, you don't have.
No, but he was asking if.
No, that wasn't what I was asking.
Yeah, I understand.
You
Yeah,
understand?
he was asking whether people with parcels of less than 5 acres are upset because we're not including them in this particular ordinance. I didn't.
Yes.
Well, I didn't hear anything along those lines, but personally, yeah, it would be nice to get a bird. Yeah. In any case, so with that, I would ask the committee to entertain possibly moving to introduce this amendment to the discharge ordinance.
I would like to move that. It's been a long and arduous road trying to get to someplace that's, and I think it's very effective. Maybe it's not the end, but we got to start somewhere, and you're the third mayor that's tried to get this deal done. So I'm more than happy to move that and hopefully get that moved to a public hearing tomorrow.
Second.
It would need to be read by first title, Mayor, and then move to second.
Okay.
An ordinance amending and revising Chapter 120, firearms of the Code of the Township of Coastline.
So moved. So.
You know, I echo your comment before, we can't sit down and do nothing, it's better to do something than nothing. You know, I've said this time and time again for the past 3 years, and the 3 times we've tried to move this, and that is sometimes it's just important to do what's right and not always what's popular. So I would like to say that.
Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Shasta?
Yes.
Superman Engel?
Yes.
Superman Argo?
Yes.
Superman Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mayor McNabb?
Yes.
Before you leave that, Mayor, just did.
Oh, what, public hearing?
Yeah, public hearing is August 13th. And one other aside on that, I don't have in front of me, but let the record show that we did receive an email from a resident by the name of Mike Viola, and wanted his letter read into the record tonight, but we'll refer to that in minutes and let the record reflect that he was in favor of the action.
And just also for the record, Mr. Viola was on the wildlife committee.
Yeah.
So he's
Didn't know that.
been actively involved.
He came from North, he brought a lot in.
Oh, is that okay?
Yeah, he's
New and very active resident.
Yeah. Okay. Administrative report, Bob.
No report tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Vouchers, Mike?
I do have, the voucher total is a little over $5.8 million, 5.4-ish of that is collected for and then remitted to the various school boards. I would say 2.02 to the regional, 3.4 to the local board, so that's 5.47 of the 5.8 that we're asking for approvals of the vouchers. And we'll tell you that one of the vouchers that's not in here, I asked them to pull was there's a bill which we received from Summit Insurance for a legal fee of $9,000 and some odd dollars, $9,875.70. That is for the litigation against the fire company. Jeff, I'm sorry it's on tape, but it has to do with the lawsuit that Mr. Sawyer brought against the fire company. That ultimately comes out of the town. So all of you know we have a self-retained portion of that. So for these kinds of lawsuits, we pay out of pocket up to $20,000, $9,800 of which has been expended thus far when this is approved. But then there's also would be a copay on that if there were a verdict in that case. township as a result of that lawsuit would be about $70,000 if it was an adverse verdict. And that's the bill that we got from Summit. But I pulled that out because I just wanted, quite frankly, I wanted to review the bill myself since it's kind of my world. So.
Well, that's not on the bill list per se, but by comment tonight, or should we consider that approved? I've had the bill for a good 2 months.
I'll look at it tomorrow and we'll put it on. Well, I can, we can ask for the committee's approval subject to my review. I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't hours in there that shouldn't have been or excessive time spent.
Otherwise,
I didn't look at it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, if you're comfortable.
It's a complete itemized legal bill, and I did review it, it seems to be in order, the billing rate is an acceptable billing rate, and they're not the kind of far spending, it seems commensurate with the pet.
Okay. Then with that, I would add to the 5.8 million, we'd add the bill for the $9,875.70.
how that works is the insurance company has already paid the attorney in kind. Of course, the insurance company wants to be reimbursed. It's been reviewed by, our JIF's been reviewed by, Fitzgerald, Mayor McNamara, all of them are.
Because of the deductible.
And yes, it's under the deductible, so obviously it needs to be paid. The attorney hasn't paid, not to be paid the insurance.
Any comments on the vouchers? Including the recent meeting?
Oh, one other comment, I apologize, Mayor, you did ask me this question. That does not include any attorney's fees associated with that litigation for the Oprah request or the Government Record Council litigation. The decision or at the local level is appealed to the Government Records Council. So John Bennett and Chris Ackerman have time on that, which I don't know what that means.
I hope this isn't put you in that spot, just giving your background as attorneys. Overall, considering all the different litigation that's involved, how much do you think this will be costing the taxpayers at this time?
Well,
I would throw a rough number.
we're going to max that at 20 grand. I mean, we're going to.
For the litigating matter.
For litigating matter.
The Government Records Council matter, that's on the
It would cost the township $20,000, plus from the fire company lawsuit, it's going to be whatever Mr. Ackerman and Mr. Bennett spend on representing the township on the Government Records Council matter. I don't know what that number is to date, but I'll get that for us for the next meeting.
Any other comments from the committee? Take a motion on the vouchers.
So moved.
Second, please. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Shatzel?
Yes.
Chairman Engel?
Yes.
Chairman Orgo?
Yes.
Chairman Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mayor McNamara?
Yes. Not on the agenda, but we do have to have committee reports tonight. Sorry. It's all right.
We were used to that from the last meeting.
Yeah.
So it was taking us maybe a whole year.
Tom, anything tonight?
I got nothing, I didn't do planning board that night.
That's true.
Mike?
I did planning board last night, and I will tell you this earlier, I didn't review the stuff, so we had a conversation, so it was as if we were there. Planning board last night was, it's kind of interesting, and I don't know whether we want to revisit this bonus lot, open space thing. The property that was discussed is the heirs property, which is, if you're familiar with it, it's out by the golf course. Most of the residents probably never go that way on Mercer Road, Mercer and Matthews, thank you, I'm right out of my head. At one time, the Ayers family owned really up to 537.
You have a long 537, there's an 11-acre piece there, 10 and 2.8 acres there. Behind the golf course on the corner, 19.2 something acres.
Right.
And on the other side of the one door to Ruth's house, they sold all that. 29 acres or something like that, in there where they had approved it for housing. They sold all that property once it got sold to the county, when they subdivided it. It was 7 or
I was going to say all that. And then there's another, the piece south of Matthews is
58 acres and 14, 72 altogether.
72 there, and then there's
13,
now what's the other side, on the other side, east of Mercer?
there's 13 where Billy is, and 30, it's like 57 acres.
Yeah, it might be a little bigger than that. The reason, and I apologize for burning you guys with the math, but what happened was they subdivided, and you can see the map, don't need to be that intricate, but they sold off that number of acres to the county for $8 million in 2005. They're now back before the planning board because they want to get a 15 lot subdivision on
Where they had it, they expired, they never did anything.
the, they didn't
Went away.
perfect it. And the other thing that happens in our ordinance, it just so happens that our ordinance requires that if you want to be considered one piece of this bonus lot, and if, I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with it, but basically, if you preserve a big lot, which we want to do in this town, and the motive is good, if you preserve a big lot in town of over 10 acres, I guess, or
30.
so if you preserve a 30-acre lot of the piece you're subdividing, you get a bonus lot for preserving that 30-acre piece because it's good for everybody. Part of the agreement that they had was that there be no further subdivision. So now they're back and forth saying, okay, we want the lots we had before, even though we let them expire, we didn't perfect them. And over here, where we only had 2 lots and agreed not to do any further subdivision, we want to get an extra lot because we can't get the 15 lots here that we want because they've changed the 30-foot setback for the stream corridor that used to be 150. Huh?
300 feet.
300 feet, used to be 150, they changed it to 300 feet, what, 300 feet. So they now basically can't build on the lots that they had approvals for, and if they had done some improvement, I mean, there was something that could have been done back in 06 or 07 or
Yeah,
08.
they could cut the streets in and put the pipes in the sewer pipes, and they'd been set, but they didn't do anything.
So they came before us and they're looking for it, but the other thing that was interesting is, you can consider one parcel our ordinance reads if you have pieces of property across the street from each other and they touch at the center line. And the theory is that it's kind of a contiguous piece, even though the road is there. And part of this logic makes sense to me because if you own both sides of the street, you can reconfigure the road to make it more palatable to the planning board, to the circulation plan. A couple things came out. One is they sold off the piece that made the 2 parcels they have not contiguous. They don't touch. They're on opposite sides of the street, so they don't touch, and they wanted us to consider one piece so they get the bonus lot and get to subdivide the other piece. They got a cool reception on that, as you might imagine. But what it raised was, when we talked about it, was a little scary, and I think we have to address the ordinance, is the piece on the south of Matthews Road is 20 of the 70 acres is wet. So it's never going to perk, so they have some problems there. But I raised the question in the hypothetical, but I scared myself. If you had a piece of property, I don't know where this is applicable, but if you buy a piece of wetlands of, say, 50 acres, and you buy something across the street from that, and they touch at the center line, you could get bonus lots by using the wet that's across the street because it's one piece. So there's a couple of
That's what
holes
they
there.
did, that's what they sold the
Well,
county.
that's what they sold the county. They sold the county.
And that 74-acre piece,
Right.
if there's 25 acres, it's not wetlands, would be a 50 acres, it's got to be wetlands.
But the bonus point is, the bonus lot is kind of maybe out of usefulness, and I think we ought to look at it, because if you recall from 2 years ago, the law changed, because that rule of decision law, it used to be that if a developer came before the planning board or the zoning board and said, I want to do this, the township committee could act quickly and change the ordinance before the planning board or the zoning board approved that subdivision. And it was a protection because they, quite frankly, the developers, lawyers are smarter than part-time guys that were being on township committees. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, they changed that law. That law now says that if you make an application, the ordinances that exist when you apply are what rules. So, if somebody comes in and sees this kind of hole in our ordinance, we can have a real ugly situation. So I think that maybe long-range planning has to take a look at that. And I think that definitely long-range planning, but that's, and I apologize, that was one application, but it raised a lot of red flags.
We could put out long range planning.
Yeah, take a look at that.
That's
Maybe you guys did it.
that's what they did then. Overbrook.
That's exactly what they were, but that's, and they got the bonus ones. But
Because
it's-
you only need 88,000 square feet of highland. You could have 25 acres of swamp, and that's what they did. And that was my argument then, because these people are going to come here and say, I want farmland assessment. How are you going to get it? Are you going to raise koi?
Sure. Awesome.
Okay, nothing really. Anything else?
Trevor? Just 2 things, architectural review. I'll tell you, that committee, plan was put before them, and the windows, there was an addition over the garage, and it has 2 windows, and the architect put up like a roof line going straight up to the windows. It looks beautiful. And then the architectural committee was, many folks on the board were wondering what happens when it snows. And the homeowner thought that was a great point. I mean, material made out of? What are you going to do when it snows? And you've got your window right there, especially given the window we had. So it was a really nice thing to see the committee not just commenting on, obviously, the aesthetics of the home, but also, and I've seen that happen time and time again, but as you know, I just got reappointed this year, and, that was something where, now she's going to go back to the architect. But, and I think this isn't a knock on the architect. I mean, it was beautiful and possibly is functional using the right materials. But if not, it could pose a problem. As you know, a few weeks ago, I was concerned because, well, first and foremost, JCP&L. So, after Sandy, one of the biggest takeaways for all the mayors in the county was the lack of communication and really an understanding of what was going on in town, where the loss of power was. And I don't know how many of you have, or folks in the public, have gone to the JCP&L site. But they do have an incredible site now. You just type in Google JCP&L outage New Jersey. It has a map. If you lose power, you can report your power outage. You put your phone number in, and believe it or not, within a few seconds, your outage, whether it's confirmed or not, now shows up on that map. And you can see everywhere in Colts Neck, including the entire county, where all the outages are and where the crews are as it relates to have they, are they investigating it, have they arrived, and have they resolved it. So even after all the power outage last night, and I was in Philadelphia, I was able to look at this map and see when my house got power got restored.
Because Philadelphia had power.
And because Philadelphia had power. And see when,
Battery charge.
So from that perspective, kudos to JCP&L for really putting together a communication system online, if you have power, or battery, that you can monitor, as well as 3 weeks ago we had about 34% without power. Power was fully restored within an hour, which was fairly impressive as well. Last night it took a bit longer. The majority of the population, we lost close to 58% last night. Pulse Net was without power. The majority was back up and running by 2:30 in the morning, and then within 3 or 4 hours, the rest of the town was at 100%.
No.
With about 150 that went to, I think, around noon.
3 o'clock, so.
Wow. So, my point is, they've come a long way. However, 3 weeks ago, we were at 34%. And the beauty of this new website is you can see where other towns are. And we were the winners. And that's the game I don't want to win. I don't want to be at the top of the list. And unfortunately, last night, we were the winners again. We were with 58%, Freehold was close, and there were towns 0%, 1%, 2%. So I did speak to a representative at JCP&L who will be coming in to see us in a couple weeks. And I've asked that when he comes in to see us, he really does a thorough investigation as to whether or not this was simply coincidence, or whether or not there was, and I have my own feelings as to what I think may have caused some of this, but he's going to go back to the line crews, he's going to do a thorough investigation, he's going to find out why certain circuits were cut, why poles were damaged, why certain wires went down, what property, where the trees were that caused, and what property, was it on municipal property, was it because the lines weren't cut, the tree cutting wasn't cut, was the vegetation was too close to the lines. So we're going to have those answers. Honestly, I don't really, my sense is I don't believe it's going to be a vegetation issue. They were fairly aggressive with the cutting. In fact, you'll see this helicopter, black with silver tail, flying over Colts Neck now through July 10th. They're doing vegetation management aerial inspections.
That's just on the main.
On the main, but that's still very important. So, without guessing as to why this happened, we just know that the numbers don't lie, and we were leading the county in power outages. I've asked that we have a report that gives us a definitive answer as to why, and then if it means, whatever steps that means, we'll deal with it. But I just wanted to give you that.
And I think one concern was that we may need to ask our residents to be a little bit more diligent about maintaining trees on their own properties that may have the ability to compromise the power lines.
Sure. Because we know that many of the developments in this town were built in the 70s and 80s, and the trees that were put in could potentially be near your life expectancy or need to be heavily trimmed. And that's what he's gonna come back with. So if there are certain areas in town, because we have, fortunately, we have 2 storms back to back within 2 to 3 weeks, which he believes, as well as I agree, could give us some real answers. Is it the same location? Is it a different location? He believes it might have been the same location. So I'm curious to hear what he comes with.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, one dead tree that loses a limb in 2 consecutive storms, that may give you an answer to the problem.
I also think the infrastructure is still an issue.
Yeah.
The amount of transformers that blew 2 storms ago was tremendous.
Yeah, the 1 weeks ago, yeah.
Just one after the other after the other. And I don't think they're putting up new transformers. I think they're putting up transformers that they have.
Reconditioning.
Yes.
We'll talk about it later. When JCP comes in, we'll talk to them.
Yeah, I'll find out.
Let's get some good facts.
Yes. Like I said, I have my thoughts. but
At
let's-
6:30, at 6 o'clock tonight, they still haven't fixed the lines over on Prime Road where lines came down our car last night when people hadn't fixed that yet.
Yeah.
There's a Jersey Central person still sitting in a van there watching. And everything that came down on Muhlenbrink last night came across the road and took the lines out. So where they trimmed was fine, but it's across the street.
I know that there are several thousand people in Middletown without power, and it probably won't get to that until all power is restored.
All right, Jared, anything else?
Nope, I'm done.
Jim?
Good, 2 things. Public Works, you saw the newest addition to our fleet when you walked in. It's a pretty impressive truck out there, so I'm sure that will be put to good use for Public Works. Also, the fair starts tomorrow night, including fireworks. Rides are back. I was at the fairgrounds the past several days. Looks like it's going to be terrific weather. Everything looks good. So I hope to see everybody at the fair.
What night of fireworks?
Tomorrow night, at 9:15ish, 9:30ish.
That wasn't clear in the stuff I saw, that's just,
You guys, that's not also. Yeah, foreign fireworks is not supposed to be the case in the morning and stuff.
Everything looks good.
Wait, did you cover the ticket movement, or is there still looking for?
Oh, we need, yes, so I have you guys, when you're there, I'm gonna grab you for an hour. Better than the dump tank, so.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes not the register.
Tommy volunteered for the dog.
There you go.
What? I take my shower every night.
So, I don't have anything to report from any of my colleagues other than co-subcommittee, which I talked to you about already, and yes.
You want to talk about it?
Yes, I do. Yes, just a big reminder to everybody, please. August 23rd, Cold Snack will be hosting an Operation Provide Comfort concert at the auditorium at Brookdale. The information for purchasing tickets is available on our website, and if you want more direct source of that ticket buying ability, you could let us know after the meeting, at the fair as well. And the headliner for that event, which is to benefit the folks in Union Beach, is Jackie Lee from Cold Snack, and she has a single out now and doing really well, so she hopefully will be a big attraction. Please come, tell your friends, tell your relatives, come out and support the folks in Union Beach. They still could use quite a bit of help. So that's again August 23rd. And that's it for me. I'll take any comments from the public then. Elaine?
Yes, I would like to address the Montrose Road Schoolhouse. In the past, we spent, before we used farmland preservation, open space, and historic preservation, we spent over $80,000 on this building to renovate it. Mr. Royal did the renovations at the time. Mr. Bowden and Howard and I went over there, and we couldn't understand that they did the whole inside and everything else. And Mr. Bowden had a pencil and he put it in the foundation and it was crumbling. We've spent a lot of money on this house over the years for a house that's only open 2 days at the most, with a committee of over 15 people. Now, if we're going to move this building to this area here, you're going to find that there's going to be a problem, because we had this problem when we put up the library. We had to buy back building. We did, didn't we, Mr. Brown? We swap with the state because the
Oh, with
land.
Green Acres Properties?
That's
Yeah, we
correct.
did, but there's considerable amounts now of free property, for want of a better word. We have a map. Yes.
Okay. So that was a problem we incurred then, which we didn't realize until when we were culminating the plans and doing what we had to do. So that's number one. Number two, this schoolhouse was bought on a flatbed, so it really isn't the original schoolhouse. And one can't understand when we did the renovations on the outside last time, when they wanted to spend $7,000 each for the shingles, the shutters on the building. They had renovated the inside, they had to remove all the slate boards that were donated. Now again, you just put on a new slate roof. That's going to compromise the slate roof when you move it. So that's my comment. I think we waste a lot of money in a building that has no value in plain English. Okay.
Yes, sir.
A couple comments.
Just don't forget to state your name and.
Oh, Bob's sake. Welcome back, Bob.
Yeah.
Thanks. I know it's been a while. We still have a telephone poles. I wanted to say that I strongly endorse what you said about the deer here. You know, I live on Sycamore, which is a block away from swampy Green Acres. And I've looked out my window and seen 12, 15 deer feeding on my forest, or what's left of it. So, and I understand, I think when you made the comment, people are afraid of firearms. But I think that there is a worse, rather, safety issue with regard to the deer and cars and people getting hit by stray bullets, especially if we have licensed qualified hunters. And I'm willing to bet that the people who are complaining the most about the deer are the people who I see driving their children to school talking on their cell phones. But that's just my opinion. I do have a question though about this. So the 5-acre minimum is for use of firearms. Are any other devices to call or shoot the deer available on less acreage?
No.
No.
Oh, we're included.
All right.
The vote by the state of Jersey is considered farm, just like a shotgun and muzzle loader and things like that. But you could have 5 acres and not have a 450-foot rule for a gun, but you could have the 150-foot rule for the club.
But no, Anthony, nothing less than 5 acres at all.
Okay. And then on a completely different topic, a couple months ago, Larchmont was paved, and curbs some of them were replaced. And I know that we're trying to save money, but sometimes it gets to be ridiculous what we're trying to do. Now, I don't know if you've been there, but some of the older curbs, which somebody determined were still in good shape, but they're lower. So they curved down the new curve to meet the old curve. So what you've got is a sort of undulating look to it, and it's not very aesthetically pleasing. I can't imagine how much money we saved, because I saw one section where I had about 20, 30 feet of new curve here and there, and in the middle was an 8-foot section, and both sides you dipped down. You should have just ripped out the middle and made it contiguous.
How about the engineer?
Now, that leads me to another problem with the way the roads are paved. And I know that we always go for the lowest bidder, but I think we've got to look at what they're going to do for that low bid, because the problem, I think, is when they cut down the road to put down the new macadam, whatever it's called, they don't cut deep enough near the curb. So eventually you get this building up, the curbs start to look really small, and that creates another problem. For me, it's on my driveway, the water spills into my driveway, it stays there because it can't flow out. And now the edge of my driveway is potholed, as well as a couple of my neighbors. So I think that's a concern. I mean, I don't know if you can do anything about it, but next time.
We'll have the engineer take a look at it. I think Bob has your
I
address.
understand exactly what you're saying.
We'll have them take a look
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't
no
want to
fix is a perfect fix, but
Spurs, but come on, give them an even.
we'll take a look at it, you know, we still have folks out working, if there's a fix that we can do with that, that's within the budget, we'll fix it.
Okay. That was it.
Jeff?
Jeff Sarkozy. First thing really quick on the audit, I know Mike Fitzgerald, I know you indicated, I guess, kind of comparing it to some other towns through your history there. You know, I guess what I kind of like comparing it to towns that are worse than Colts Neck, and those two comments, as minor as they are, which I really truly think are really minor, I think we should always strive to be the best, and let's maybe compare ourselves to the best, like Monmouth County. And you can only imagine the size of Monmouth County government. They got 0 comments for their audit. The other thing, and I'm not sure if you missed this, Mike, or not, but the police chief in town was honored a couple weeks ago for being sworn in as
Why do you
president.
say if I missed that, I was there, you saw me?
I know. So
Don't be ridiculous, either for your tape or for the people who are here.
well, I'm bringing it up.
You shook my hand.
I know, and we actually had a good conversation. But I'm bringing it up because I don't know why you didn't bring it up, because not that it's between you and me, Mike, it's about, this is a good thing for Colts Neck, this is a good thing for the chief, this is a good thing for the police department. There's 566 municipalities roughly, I think, in New Jersey, and I think out of that, I'll spitball here, maybe there's 500 that have police departments, their own police departments. So for Colts Neck to land and be president of that association, I think that's a pretty good thing. And I think also Monmouth County hasn't had a president of that association for more than 20 years. So again, this is good for Monmouth County, it's good for Colts Neck. That's what I just wanted to make the point, since I know you missed it.
I want my personal congratulations to you, brother.
Nothing further, thank you.
Yes.
Yes, a couple things. Your discussion of the lot size average provision in zone, it might be a possible fix to require that it be 30 or more acres of developable land in, therefore, that would solve the problem of wetlands possibly.
I figured smart guys would come up with a solution, not just identify the problem.
Okay.
That could be,
And
That's
the other
good
thing,
on, that's good on.
I think it's 30 acres of agriculture on the street.
It won't be developable, that's a good point, because this is agriculture, that's agricultural, but it's not, it wouldn't work.
the other thing, Mayor, I received a phone call this evening telling me that on July 14th, there was going to be a special one-time collection of brush from the storm damage. And so I just thought I'd mention that it was from a gentleman, I believe by the name of Mac now.
I think you might have mentioned that, but I figured by dissemination, for those on the reverse 911 system, got a message, in light of the damage caused by last night's storm, we are going to do a one-time brush collection beginning on July 14th. So for those that didn't either get the email or the telephone call, and if you do have brush related to this particular storm, please feel free to put it out at the curb in accordance with our township ordinance. Thanks, I appreciate that.
Just thought I'd mention that.
That's good.
And the other thing, last night I was in Freehold and I came home about 10 o'clock and found the power was out. So I picked up my phone and I called the outage hotline. And it rang and it rang and it rang and it rang and it rang. And finally a recording came on saying, if you want to report an outage, you should call, and gave me the number that I had just called. And so I hung up and I said, okay. And so I...
Because you have to use the new website.
Yeah, well, and then I dialed it again, and this time I got a busy signal, and they're just disconnected. So I tried it about 2 hours later, and then I was able to get through it. But so while they're improving some things, you know, those of us who are not online at home, you know, and are doing what they say, calling 24 hours a day, it ain't perfect yet. I'll be very interested in hearing whatever you hear from DCP&L. I know we are at the county doing the master plan. One of our working groups is on utilities, and we are going to be having a variety of questions for all sorts of utilities, including the power company. So the issues that you have, see, these are public meetings, working group meetings. And so, this is whatever questions you have, if you let me know or let our staff know, we will include them in what we're doing, because the issue isn't just going to be for Colts Neck. Issues of reliability, redundancy, capacity, equipment, that applies everywhere. So, we can ask the same questions and would want the same answers. So, us asking them on top of you asking them, I think can only be mutually beneficial.
Mrs. Wilcox?
Well, first, it makes me laugh because I had to call Optum, and I had two people talking at the same time, from the same company. And then they kept saying, well, if we can't do it this way, well, maybe we'll try it this way. If you can't do it this way, maybe we'll try it this way. And it was a circus. That was what I wanted to ask. When this is all said and done, you're going to have the shootings or the debates. Are we going to make sure that for the people who really don't want to be in town on those dates, that there'll be a list of them?
This is just going to be during regular hunting season. This is not going to be designated date.
Oh, okay.
In other words, it's not going to be.
It's not going to be a special.
I think people have a bit of a misconception as to the number of even hunters that there are in the county. There's only a couple hundred.
I think 470 in the whole zone, that's Monmouth, Middlesex.
Yeah, there's
I
just,
don't think we have a special.
I think people just have this kind of idea that there's just swarms and swarms of hunters around and that jump out of the
No,
van.
that's
That is
not-
just not the case.
No,
So the hunting will be on during, in accordance with state statute, during hunting season, which runs from
The
the.
bow and arrow starts the second Saturday in September.
Okay.
And that runs all the way through till February.
So you're gonna be out of
1
town
or
for
2
a
days,
long time.
that's about it.
Snowbirds.
And then shotgun season starts Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and then it stops. And it doesn't open until the first full week of December, and it has the 8th in it. And then that runs 10 days, and then you have muzzleloader that runs another 15, 16, gets you back up to like January 8th, and then from January 8th to February 13th or 14th, somewhere there. I haven't seen the new rules for this year, and that'll be muzzleloader or shotgun or bow, whatever they want.
So it's basically the same as it's always been.
It's been the
I think
same.
we're bringing some in for certain
No,
special.
no. This zone is set up because there are so many deer in zone 50 that you can shoot unlimited amount of deer per day and check them in 2 at a time. So you can shoot 2, call up on the phone, you call this 800 number, load them up your truck if you want, you don't even have to do that. Go out and shoot another 2 more, you can do it because the state realizes there's such a problem in this area. Shrewsbury opened up their town. Another town just opened up today up in North Jersey.
But in any case, so, I mean, my guess is that although you may hear some more during the shotgun and muzzleloader discharge time, you may hear some more than you normally hear. I don't think it's going to be dramatic. That's my point.
If
No,
we
my-
saw
my
10
question-
hunters in Pulse, like
My question was, some towns do have extra.
No.
No, only the county.
We looked at doing that. It is really very expensive thing to do, to bring in hired guns, if you will.
No, she's talking about certain dates that they have, like the county has.
Well,
No, certain, you said over and above those.
yeah, I think she's talking about additional paid professionals who come in
Exactly.
and shoot, yeah. No, we're gonna try it this way with licensed hunters and see what kind of effect we have. We could always, if it comes to the point where we feel we absolutely have to spend money to do that at some point in time, then we can consider it. That's why we keep this wildlife committee open and just keep reevaluating from year to year, see how we do.
Plus, we keep in touch with the state.
Yeah.
We keep in touch with the state because the state's coming up with more ideas to it, and whatever they can come up with, they'll help us.
No, if you're saying, you said something very interesting, that you said they could shoot as many as they wanted. Are they responsible for taking them away?
Yes.
Okay. 'Cause
I just have one more comment. I attended Leadership Day up at the Naval Weapons Station Earl, and the commander was very concerned about drones and the FAA's ability of not being able to control them. And I was speaking to a representative from Cologne's office, and we were going to get together, but I did call Kate Benedetti down at Senator Congressman Smith's office. So I had drafted a letter that I was urging the Congress and the Senate to formulate a plan, probably something like the DMV does to regulate them and have the industry put VIN numbers on them and what have you. So hopefully they will take that into consideration, but we should be concerned about it because today was an
We're well ahead of
incident.
you.
Well,
Well ahead of you.
we should, no.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, because
We
there's.
don't tell you everything that we do, but.
Right, well, we are concerned about it, because there was an incident today in New York City with the New York Police Department with a drone that was actually targeting them. And I heard that we will be in a pilot program for the state of New Jersey. The federal government, the FAA, will do a pilot program in New Jersey on how to control these drones.
So, okay. Anybody else tonight? Mr. Wilcox?
Yeah, just wanted to kind of support Mr. Orgo on his proposing vote on taking money from open space. There was, as you recall, a referendum on that specific issue, and whether, regardless of whether legal advice finds a way to do it, what was very clear from the township's vote, opposing the use of those funds for maintenance, what is that they actually want to use the funds to buy land.
No, that's not correct.
And, well, I mean, that's the message that has been behind every one of the victories of referenda adding to taxes or supporting taxes.
That referendum had to do with expanding the use of recreation. That had nothing to do with maintenance at all.
And the specific
It
ordinance.
was
The
essentially,
existing ordinance specifically provides for maintenance.
And it had nothing to do with adding taxes.
no, the original referendum created
To
that.
modify the ordinance, and the ordinance was written.
Yes, I understand, it was a
If you
zero
go back
sum
to the
within.
original ordinance, if you read the original
Right.
ordinance in the referendum, it
Okay.
mentions historic
But
preservation.
in normal course of business for this committee, something like building that fence, and regardless of the merits of the fence or whatever, really should be in the general fund, not coming out of the land. Because essentially what you're saying is I'm taking $15,000 away from our power to buy land, and I'm going to basically invest it in some wooden fence. And that isn't a sensible use of that money. And part of the reason you have going through all these regulatory issues, how can I beat the developers at how they trade off wetlands and all that, is essentially the only real way to win that is to buy land. So I think that you really should concentrate on making sure your open land acquisition program is aggressive and not diluted by being used for other programs.
Anything else, folks? See no further comments from the public. I'll take a motion to, on resolution 2014-87, that's executive session. We're not expecting to come back to public session. So,
All in favor? Opposed, none? Okay.
thanks everybody for coming out.